Welcome into Shootin the Shield here on 365 Sports. I'm Jacob Wilson, joined, of course, as always, by Tanner Carlson.
Man, it was a great week this week in all levels of sports, really. But I mean, the NFL had a great week this week.
Yeah, what was your favorite moment? There were no Cowboys, so we won't talk about them as much.
Right, yeah. So there's a lot of conversation about the Cowboys, though, and we'll get into all that. Don't worry. We're going to get plenty into that. But no, I think that we have solidified that Green Bay is not the Green Bay team that we have known for the last decade plus, even going back to Brett Favre. You know, they always seem to have a playoff spot locked in, Green Bay Packers ready to go. And it's just not the case this year with Aaron Rodgers leading that way. And then Tampa Bay, regardless of them winning and now being in first place in their division, they're still not a team that I'm sold on that's even going to make the playoffs.
That division is still garbage. I harped on it last week. I was wrong about saying the Saints were going to be the team that would eventually swoop in and take that first place spot. But going back to the Packers, I think this is Kirk Cousins' division now. I mean,
here we go.
Did you see him go from being playing? You would want to take him home and introduce him to your sister to. No, keep that kid away from my daughter.
Kirk Thuggins, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
He was iced out on the plane. My guy, he went from sunscreen on the nose at the beach, dad bod, to this guy who's just like, I mean, he's got all the swag that Joe Burrow wishes he had.
I don't know if I'd go that far, Tanner.
Is that a stretch?
Producer Forrest and I's Garrett Ross, a diehard LSU fan. What do you think about that?
I think that's a little false, my man.
All right.
You're going to have to pump the brakes a little bit. I appreciate the enthusiasm.
Yeah, hey, Joe Burrow's my guy, though, man. You can't say anything bad about the guy.
I mean, even as cool as he was probably the coolest on that night that he's ever been in his entire life.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
But he still kind of dances like a dorky white guy, in my opinion.
He's still the dad. I mean, he's still the dad of the NFL, and he's always going to be that. And there's nothing wrong with that. He embraces that role, which makes it ironically funny whenever they ice him out with all the gold chains.
Yeah. What about the Rams? I know that you were a little hot and bothered by them.
Yeah, I just think that I don't know what is wrong. I mean, I know they have offensive line problems like crazy. Right?
Yeah.
And if you can't run the ball, you can't protect your quarterback, you're going to have problems on the offensive side of the ball. And it's not so much where they're having problems on defense, but they just haven't gelled at all this year. And you would think that bringing over the majority of the guys they had left over from last season, their Super Bowl run, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of turnover, a lot of change on the sideline with the coaching staffs or even on the field with the players. So that is just kind of a conundrum that I haven't been able to figure out yet.
Yeah, it's weird. You know, when you mortgage your entire future, sell your soul for to the devil in a sense, trading just about every amount of draft capital that you have. They, no doubt in my mind that this should have been the team that traded for Christian McCaffrey, but they simply could not. Yeah. And it's starting to actually show now. And Matthew Stafford, he looks very, very flushed all the time. He doesn't look like a pro who's been in the league for over a decade, who has a Super Bowl now. And if I'm a Rams fan, I'm kind of sounding the alarm. There are other teams in that division that are kind of starting to pull away. And look, they need to reset. I think this is not their year. I think they need to reset and look to the future a little bit.
And I'll harp on it one more time. I know I talked the majority of last week's episode about the Seattle Seahawks, but I'm telling you, man, this Seattle Seahawks team has draft capital out the wazoo from the Russell Wilson trade. Mm-hmm. They've got a quarterback who is essentially playing for free at an MVP level. I mean, where do you see Geno Smith even a year from now? Is he back in Seattle? Do they sign him? Do they franchise him? What are they going to do? And are there teams that are going to be willing, like, hey, why don't we trade for this guy? Maybe he's worth a little bit of draft capital, and the Seahawks could double down on it.
I don't know.
I think they're in a tough but very interesting and fun situation to be in.
Yeah, I don't know about getting any draft capital for Geno Smith because even though he's playing well, the majority of the league, they know enough about this guy to know what his value is trade-wise. I think the Seahawks, they just bring him back for another rodeo. Yeah. Nobody really expected this particular outcome. People could have had, sunshining, rosy feelings about Geno Smith being a good quarterback, but no one thought that he'd be leading this division and playing as well as he has been. But last thing I want to get on before we get into a certain sweepstakes is Joe Mixon. He scored 5 touchdowns. If You lost your fantasy week with Joe Mixon on your roster. God freaking hates you.
Yeah, he's got a cruel sense of humor anyway, especially when it comes to the fantasy gods of football. Yeah, it's always a cruel penalty. But Joe Mixon had a great performance. I was really expecting a lot out of Lamar Jackson. I actually got beat because of Justin Tucker. So, when you lose to a kicker in fantasy football, that's never a good feeling.
Well, I don't think the crowd really cares about our fantasy football teams whatsoever. Cares. Because, there's nothing lamer than having to listen to somebody talk about their fantasy football team when they're not in your league.
The only time people care about fantasy football is whenever it's their own team.
I'm just kidding. Fantasy football show Wednesdays here on 365 Sports. Please care about those teams that we are discussing. But Odell Beckham Jr., his name is in the news nowadays, and I want to chat with you a little bit about the OBJ sweepstakes, because there are a lot of teams that make sense. There was an NFL owner, high-profile one, that was singing his praises on the radio today. So why don't you just paint some scenarios for me?
Okay. Well, I really do think that Odell is a guy who likes to be wined and dined, right? He wants to be. He likes the foreplay of the whole, I'm a free agent, I'm available, I'm going to show you a little bit, but I'm just going to tease you. You're going to have to wine and dine me to get my attention, right? He's that kind of guy. He's that kind of free agent. And the Cowboys, if you've been on Twitter at all over the last 48 hours, you've seen Jerry Jones sing his praise. You've seen Micah Parsons actively recruiting him. And now Des Bryant is also on the train.
Mike McCarthy.
And then you've also got Mike McCarthy. So the Cowboys are trying to wine and dine him, and they are trying to get this guy with a star on his helmet by season's end, going in trying to make a playoff run.
Yeah.
And so I really think right now I would honestly say that the Cowboys are probably the lead candidate to landing Odell Beckham. As kind of weird and taboo as that sounds, I truly think that they are at least making the biggest push of anybody else in the league right now for him.
All right. You're right, the Cowboys are. And when I'm thinking of Odell Beckham Jr., I'm thinking of a character on, I don't know if you've ever seen the show on HBO called Ballers.
Yeah.
But for the rest of the people,
look,
if you haven't seen it, don't, because it was a bad show. I watched it because I'm a football fan.
Right. It's one of those like guilty pleasure shows where you're kind of like, this isn't good, but I'm going to continue watching this.
But when Denzel Washington's son, James Washington, I don't even remember the actor's name. He was a good actor, but he played the diva wide receiver who was getting courted, and he asked, where's the love? I think the Cowboys, they're definitely a team that would show him the love. But you know who would not only show him the love, but actually grovel? His old team right here, because they need help absolutely everywhere. This Allen Robinson.
Oh, you moved the whole thing. I see.
Yeah,
I see what you did there.
Leave the Cowboys right there. We know that everyone and their mother is thinking about the Cowboys, but the LA Rams, they're a team that, look, they might not have the cap space. They don't need draft capital to get him. That's the only thing that makes me think that they might be able to swoop in and bring him back, because Allen Robinson has not worked out. Nobody besides Cooper Kupp is doing anything for this Rams offense. And now Cooper Kupp, his injury status is a little up in the air. And look, if you really, really wanted a team to show him the love, I think it would be the Rams.
Well, here's the thing, too, is he has come out actively, and he has said, I want to play for a contender. I want to play for a team that has a chance to make a playoff run into the Super Bowl. Do you think the Rams are that team right now, regardless of their history, regardless of last season? Do you think the Rams are primed? They're Odell Beckham away from making a Super Bowl run?
No. But I just wanted to illustrate that this is a team that would get down on its knees and beg.
Right.
But I'm looking at these other teams that I've got up here. I put the Saints up here because I thought that, he played at LSU, shout out Garrett, and his buddy Jarvis Landry is there, although it didn't work out when they were both on the same roster in Cleveland. Right. I think the most realistic next location for him to land would be Baltimore right here, and I know that you agree with me on this one.
I really like that move, too.
They don't have Rashad Bateman. They got nothing out of Devin Duvernay last week. Mark Andrews was hurt. Isaiah Likely, looking pretty good for a rookie tight end. Yeah. but they need another weapon for Lamar Jackson to throw to. They're a contender. It would make way too much sense. And they've brought in veteran receivers before. They brought in Des Bryant at one point.
And you know who you had told me, and you asked me straight up before the show even started, you said, hey, look at these teams. Let me know if there's another team on there that's not on there. And I just thought of one, so I apologize for doing this live while we're going. But the Los Angeles Chargers, I think Keenan Allen's injury, Mike Williams' injury, they're just decimated by injuries. And that's not just on offense, that's also on the defensive side of the ball as well. And I think as a fan base, they're just asking for something. And we're not that far away. You've got Justin Herbert. They're still in the thick of things within their division. I mean, they're still a team that...
The Chiefs are kind of pulling away.
But they can make at least a wild card.
They do.
I mean, they're good within the conference. Now, unfortunately, they're in the AFC, and that's going to be a very crowded race at the end of things to get those final 3 spots. But I think it would be a good fit to go right across the hall from the Rams over to the Chargers locker room.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thought. They do hold that final wild card spot in LA right now. They have to hang on and hope that they can get healthy enough to actually make a push, because there is a lot of talent on that team. You never know. The last team that I want to talk about here, it'd be funny if he went back to the Giants. I don't know if they want that headache because of how things kind of ended with them, but suddenly in first place in their division, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, they are absolutely no strangers to bringing in veterans, locker room headaches, guys who seem like their best days might be behind them. Yeah. Why the hell not? Why the hell, the Buccaneers, why shouldn't they try? That's my question.
And I think they have given that effort time and time again. We saw it this offseason. Julio Jones.
Yeah,
And I just think that, has been a complete debacle. I mean, not that he is a distraction by any means. It just hasn't worked out for him. Mike Evans is towards the end of his career in terms of the peak of his career, I should say. And Chris Godwin is just what Chris Godwin's going to be. He's going to be a screen guy. He's going to be short, a lot of completions, but getting about 10 yards. I mean, he is the Julian Edelman of this offense for Tom Brady, right? And so I think they could use a guy. I think it's a good fit. I really do. But why not the San Francisco 49ers? Let's just talk. They just made a huge trade. So like you said, this is a free agent. This is a guy that they don't necessarily need to give up any kind of draft capital. They don't need to have those draft picks in order to get him like they did with Christian McCaffrey. And so you pair him up with Mike Shanahan's offense, and you get him paired up with Christian McCaffrey, and you just give Garoppolo another weapon to make him elevate his play, which isn't a very high level of play to begin with, but he does have weapons around him to make it a little easier on him. You pair him up with Debo and Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. You've got yourself a very, very dynamic offense.
I don't know the cap space situation for the Niners right now. It can't be super in the black, if at all. It's probably not, but...
The cap is a myth. Teams work through that all the time. I don't really even concern myself with the cap anymore, because teams are going to make it work regardless if they want it to.
Yeah. By the way, Mom, I'm not drinking this beer because the fridge
it's actually iced over.
It's actually frozen, and I think it'll thaw out when the Anonymous Brewery sponsors this podcast. Moving on. All right. We got the playoff picture currently as it stands in the AFC. I just wanted to, these are always fun when they throw them up during games. The graphics of the division leaders, the wild card spots, and who's in the hunt. And the who's in the hunt part is always the most fun, because it's never going to be the team that actually makes a splash. But it's fun for debate. And so I'll bring these graphics back up as the season goes along, change up how we maneuver them. But for now, I want you to paint me a picture of what you think the AFC will look like going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a really tough situation to kind of try to figure out, because the AFC, I think we have a much better picture of the NFC. Who are the top teams? Who are the lower teams? It's not very muddy. Really, after these two guys right here, I mean, really, once you get past this, it's muddy. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know who's going to be where. And so I do think, however, let me get out of that. But I'm going to take the Jets out of here.
All right.
I don't think they end up making the playoffs.
I was just going to say, this Jet team does not belong there, especially with that Breece Hall.
Yeah.
But it is kind of fun. I'm not going to lie.
But they just beat the Bills. They're coming off a division win. I mean, that's one of the biggest regular season wins the Jets have had since the Mark Sanchez, Rex Ryan days. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's a huge game for them, and now they're sitting pretty within the division. I do think the Cincinnati Bengals find a way to sneak in. I'm not sure if they're the top wild card spot, but I do think they sneak in. I'm going to leave the Chargers where they're at. This team right here, the Miami Dolphins, I'm not entirely sold on.
Really?
I'm not sold on.
You know they're undefeated with if Tua starts and finishes the game, they're undefeated.
I'm not sold on the new coach. I'm definitely not sold on Tua. I do like the weapons that they have. I'm just I don't know. I have a giant question mark right next to him. That's my only thing. I just don't know. But I also look at these other teams. Which team is going to take over? I think that the Indianapolis Colts, I think they're over here with the Jets. I think their season's done. And I know a week ago I basically had said the Colts are going to run this division. I realized
that was a great take.
It was a take that immediately failed the week of I said it. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Colts because they've got an interesting coach right now.
Yeah, and we can definitely get into that a little bit more. I'm curious what this New England Patriots team is going to do. I'm very curious if they're going to try to make a push. I don't know the quarterback situation. I'm not even sure if they know what the quarterback situation is.
I mean, if the Patriots are going to overtake any team, it's going to be this team because they don't have enough. They have a good defense, but they don't have enough offense to keep up with the Dolphins, who can pretty much get in a track meet with anyone. That being said, I'm not too sure about the Titans. But then again, everyone else in their division is a dumpster fire. I think they'll be a first-round knockout. Not one of those teams that when you at the end of the year you look at it and say, yeah, they're well coached, but they don't have the players to really make that much of a push.
In terms of the division standings, where do you see it fall? Do you think this is the order that we see going into the playoffs?
I mean, I like the Bengals right here. I think they find a way to get it together. Whoopsie daisy. All right, you know where they are.
Yeah.
But I think the Bengals find a way to get it together. They get Jamar Chase back. They won very big last week with Adam. Granted, it was against the Panthers. But I think they've got way too much offense not to come along. And Joe Burr, Garrett's guy over there, I think he finds a way to pull it together and make the Bengals the kings of the AFC North.
Hey, I'm not against that. And I definitely think that's entirely possible. The Ravens are a team that just like to choke. They're a team that like to have a fourth quarter, just fall out. If they're leading by 17 or if they're leading by 3, it doesn't really matter, but they'll lose that lead somehow, some way. I do think that their win in New Orleans was impressive on Monday night.
Yeah, it was. All right, let's go over to the NFC. All right, as it currently stands, you got the Eagles leading the East, Vikings leading the North, the Seahawks leading the West, and the Buccaneers down there leading the South.
I'm gonna actually change some things up here. This is my end of season prediction. This is exactly what I think is gonna happen. But I'm gonna actually move this. As much as I love this Seahawks team and I'm rooting for them, they're my underdog story. They're my feel good, heartwarming story. I do think San Fran ends up making a push. I think they probably end up around 3. I'm only going to give Minnesota the 2 seed right now, just for the benefit of the doubt that their division is garbage, and they're not really. I think they've won their division already. I think you can basically put, what is it, the X or the Z, whatever it is that wins your division next to your name. You've got that in. I do think the Cowboys are going to finish ahead of the Giants in the wild card. I'm not sold. I'm still not sold on Philly. I'm not sold on Philly, and it's not because I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm just not sold that. The last time that we had an 8-0 team, they lost in the first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, just because you're 8-0, 10-0. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. What was it? 2-3 years ago, they started off 11-0. They lost their last 3 games of the season going into the playoffs, and then they lost their playoff game. So it just doesn't necessarily hold a lot of weight at this point in the season. I know a lot of people want to crown them already. You can crown them in the famous words of Romeo Crennel. If you want to crown their ass, then crown them. That's how I feel about the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's another team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who else? Do you have faith in this Saints team? Because I don't have faith in the Atlanta Falcons of taking that division.
After watching the game last night against the Ravens, I don't have the faith in the Saints that I did last week. Because for whatever reason, they're choosing to start Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston right now, even after his insanely motivational rap in their game 2 weeks ago. And frankly, you know what you get with Andy Dalton. It's a very low ceiling. It's a safe floor, but it's a very low ceiling. And so I don't think that gets them into the wild card. I really like the Washington Commanders. I know that that's Garrett's team.
Oh, wow.
It hurts. It hurts at times.
Yeah, I'm totally screwing around.
I was like, there's no way. There's no chance you actually have faith in the Commandees.
Oh boy, the commies, what a mess they are. And it's interesting because mathematically they're still very much in the hunt.
They're in the hunt. They are in the hunt.
But I know
mathematically, when you have the Green Bay Packers still in the hunt, that doesn't necessarily mean you're still in the hunt. Just mathematically, you're not.
I mean, you talked off air about how not confident you are in their game with the Cowboys this week.
Right. I was gonna wait till we talk about spreads and stuff, but I'll go ahead and since you mentioned it.
Let's save that for
you want to save it. Okay.
Let's save it when we get the spreads. We're getting a little bit off topic, but if any team in the South is going to take over the Buccaneers, I kind of have a feeling it's going to be in the most ugly. I know I dumped all over the Falcons last week, and I still think they're frauds. But you know who else is a fraud? The freaking Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are frauds, 100%.
Who's the bigger fraud? And I think right now the bigger fraud would be these guys because they're in second place.
Okay.
But I think eventually it'll basically be who's less of a fraud takes that division.
Gotcha.
And right now, because they're not in charge, I think the Falcons stay up here. People forget they won last week, though. It's kind of one of those weird things.
Yeah, do you think that this division winner is going to be below 500?
It's very possible.
Do you think that it's an 8-win, 7-win season for the division winner of the NFC South?
Yeah, I need to take a closer, long, hard look at their schedules.
Remaining schedules, yeah.
But it's very, very possible.
Yeah.
But other than that, look, I agree with you on a great deal of this. I don't think the Seahawks hold on in that division. I think the 49ers eventually pull ahead, but I don't want to seem like too much of a homer.
There he is. Okay.
I mean, I know that seeding might not reflect how it actually ends, but the Cowboys...
Do you think that the Cowboys would be the 1 seed if they win the NFC East? Or would it be Minnesota at that point?
I mean, I know the Cowboys are a better team. That's one thing that I do know.
Okay.
They have a way better defense in their offense. Like the Cowboys have had absolutely no problem handling Kirk Cousins in the past, and this team has absolutely no signs that they can't do that again if those roads actually cross. I believe that they will eventually. But the Eagles, I put them in the wild card for the simple fact that they have faced no adversity this year. They have had a cupcake. That's actually a testament of how good they've been because they've had inferior opponents every single week and done what they are supposed to do.
Minnesota's the only game, and that was week 2?
Yeah.
That they played a team with that is one of the top teams within the NFL record-wise. And so,
yeah.
And are we completely sold that Kirk Cousins is going to lead this Vikings team and be legit contenders? Is that something we can believe in?
At the end of the day, it's Kirk Cousins. They might win the division. They might be the 1 seed for all I know. But at the end of the day, it's Kirk freaking Cousins.
All right, last thing on the standings, and that goes to the AFC and NFC. I just want to ask you, there's a huge discrepancy between the AFC and NFC, right?
Big time.
I mean, everyone kind of knows that, right?
I mean, if you look at these three teams, and occasionally at times, this team, those are all teams that would easily outrank every AFC team that is not the Bills or the Chiefs.
You really think so?
I do.
So I was I was leaning towards the other way.
Sorry, AFC, I won't include the Falcons.
I was actually going to lean the other way. I think the AFC is a much stronger conference this year than the NFC, just in terms of I think
on paper you're supposed to be right.
Okay.
But you've got the Giants and the Seahawks grossly outperforming their preseason predictions.
If you're talking, yeah, okay. I mean you're not, yeah. I see your argument. I see your argument. I just don't know if I can agree.
You want me to go back to the AFC?
Yeah, go back to the AFC. I just want to think that I really think that you've got the defending Super Bowl runner-ups in the Cincinnati Bengals. This Tennessee team, guys.
I mean, you put a question mark on the Dolphins.
I did put
a big question mark on the Titans.
All right, and is that the quarterback situation?
It is the quarterback situation because if they have Malik Willis, I have no confidence whatsoever.
Okay.
If they have Ryan Tannehill, there's room for hope, but the ceiling is also capped. It's kind of like with Kirk. He's Kirk Cousins in Nashville because he hasn't been making plays. He doesn't have A.J. Brown this year. That really, really shows. Treylon Burks, he's hurt, but he didn't look that great when they had him on the field. And look, I think if you're going to highlight any of these AFC teams, I'm not looking at the Titans. I'm looking at these top three and
those two right
there, and absolutely nobody else.
And I know they've got a lot of season-ending injuries. A lot of their guys are done for the year. If and when Keelan Allen comes back, when Mike Williams comes back, when that offense is at full strength, where do you put this Chargers team? With a healthy offense, Justin Herbert leading the way, where do they line up with the rest of this conference?
I mean, they don't catch up to the Chiefs. The best they can hope for is one of these final two wild card spots.
All right.
But, all right, enough of our incoherent pontificating here. Let's do something a little bit fun.
Let's do this.
Garrett, do you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've watched a couple episodes. I need to get caught up on the series. It's one that's on my bucket list. Per se.
It's on the bucket list.
All right. Well, we're having fun once again. I enjoyed recasting The Office a little too much.
Yeah, recasting The Office was a good time.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll be a weekly segment every single week, but it was a lot of fun. So let's go one here. Why don't you do all of your casting first?
You want me to do my whole casting first, and then you can go?
Yeah.
All right, we can do that. All right. We're going to start off with Charlie Day over here, all right? Charlie, he's a fan favorite of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's the dumb, lovable little brother. You just got to... I think Charlie's my favorite character, so I think everybody kind of has a thing and a affinity for Charlie. He's just so naive. But I am going with an unlikable former NFL player, and thank you so much for getting whatever skin issue of Sports Illustrated that you got of Julian Edelman.
I figured that would get your feathers all ruffled up.
I appreciate it. Julian Edelman was always the short guy. He's always small. He's always kind of the squeaky kind of noise in the background of what the New England Patriots were. You never mentioned Julian Edelman first. It was Gronk, it was Brady, it was Belichick, it was that crew first. Yeah. And then you mentioned Edelman, but people argue, is he a Hall of Fame player? Does Charlie rank among the greats of sitcom or TV series?
That's actually a really good point.
You know, is Charlie an all-time great character when it comes to the entire TV series genre in terms of shows, and where does Edelman rank in terms of successful wide receivers? And so I think there's a little bit of a comparison there. They both have a beard. They're both short white dudes. They both can be kind of annoying and loud and obnoxious. So there you go.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Who do you have for Dennis?
For Dennis, okay, this was an easy decision for me, and it's my guy Antonio Brown. If there is any guy who is as egotistical and narcissistic and a sociopath as Dennis in the NFL, it's got to be my man Antonio Brown. Dennis firmly believes that people watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia just to watch him play.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how Antonio Brown feels about the NFL.
I'm gonna tell my daughter a couple of things about human history that I find to be of the utmost importance. One, the birth of our nation, which coincided with the birth of my beloved Marine Corps. Two, our victory in World War II, and three, Antonio Brown's exit of the NFL.
And there's not a better exit. Whenever you go back and you always talk to your coworkers, hey, what's the best time you ever quit a job? Like, what's your best quitting story of a job? And sometimes you got people cussing out managers, you got people, walking out of the restaurant or store or whatever in the middle of the shift, just walking out, just done with it. That's an all-time quitting story right there, if I've ever heard one. All right, Mac.
That being said, get some help.
Yeah, let's get Mac going here. So Mac has always been the workhorse of the show. He's always kind of been the staple. Started off really great, and I think the comparison with Leonard Fournette and Mac that immediately came to mind was the weight gain.
Yeah.
There's a weight gain problem. There's a weight issue within these two guys that they share a common issue, and that's they like a little bit of food, they like a little bit of beer, they like to gain they gain weight in the off season, they come back and then they get in shape.
They get all freaking swole up. Yeah, I need to know what Rob McElhenney's workout program is.
D, this one was tough. D, I always feel like always has the best interest in women. I think she's always the feminist. She is someone that is always going to have the best interest in feminism, and
you're losing me here.
does whatever is best for women in general. And I think that is Deshaun Watson in a nutshell. If there's not a man out there more respectful than Deshaun Watson, then I don't know.
You know what? They would, at those Cleveland Brown tailgates, they would freaking love you, man.
You gotta defend the guy, right? Innocent until proven guilty. No, but yeah, that's my comparison just for ironic purposes. All right. Last but not least, Frank has, I mean, just look at the pictures. That is a comparison in its own right. Bill Belichick as Frank. Frank Reynolds is always kind of the leader, scheming up some kind of con, right? He's the con man. If he can win by cheating, that's exactly what Frank's going to do. And if Belichick can win and he has to win by cheating, gosh darn it, that's what the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick is going to do. So
I love it.
There's my recast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
When you told me that you were going to pick Bill Belichick for Frank Reynolds, I knew exactly what photo we needed to use. That being said,
all right.
I'm going to go a little out of order here just to keep people guessing until the final ones appear. But Russell Wilson, I think he's Sweet D because, look, he has his moments where he's cool. But this year, he is getting dumped on by everybody on every single major platform. JT Daniels got the best of him before the season started with his video game. I think I'm cool, but everyone likes to take a dump on me. And so it wasn't really that challenging for me to pick Russell Wilson to be Sweet D because, I mean, I wouldn't say he looks like a bird, but he definitely doesn't look like a quarterback. Moving forward, Tom Brady, another Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He's Dennis Reynolds to me.
All right.
And the reason...
Yeah, I already kind of see where you're going with it.
And the reason I chose the Dennis System photo... was because I thought there could be a good acronym for Tom. And I figured, T, try retirement, and then O, overstay my welcome, and then M, move out of the house.
Love it.
And so, and like for all those other reasons you mentioned, Dennis, he's an egomaniac, narcissistic guy. Yeah. Tom Brady, I don't think he's quite that extreme, but it's a lot of fun.
He has it hidden in there, doesn't he? He does these things on purpose. Like his press conference after the game, dropping the F-bomb. Dude, you know you're going to get attention from doing that. That's why you did that. So. Yeah,
and NFL season is not like a deployment, Tom. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, shut up. Jason Kelce, we had to include one Philadelphia Eagle.
We had to get an Eagle in there. Yeah.
And I like him as Charlie because he actually appeared in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Charlie gets locked in the bar when the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, and he comes to Charlie in a hallucination. And look at that Batman mask. How is that not a hilarious dude? I had Travis Kelce last week as Jim Halpert. I figured I'd cast the other member of the family. Welcome, Jason Kelce as Charlie Kelly.
And I also thought about including a Philadelphia Eagle, and the only Philadelphia Eagle I could think of that would fit in with any of these characters was Jason Kelce. So congratulations on that.
I was reading your brain.
Yeah.
And then, not Derrick Henry, but you might notice getting obliterated here in the photo is Josh Norman.
Oh, no.
And he's going to be Mac. I know he's not in the league anymore, but I couldn't think of anyone else that would fit this because if you think back, I think it was season 1 or 2 when Mac gets in the ring with Clown Baby in the underground street fighting. He gets absolutely obliterated by... a guy named, he was Clown Baby, and he absolutely gets obliterated by a guy who's much smaller. Obviously, this picture depiction is a little bit different, but Josh Norman, he was always that guy that thought he was a lot bigger, a lot more bad than he actually was. And he had his moments, whether it was against Derrick Henry or Odell Beckham Jr., where he got put in his place.
That's a season 2 episode you're talking about. That's old school. That's OG. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they had like a $100 budget to make their show, and they've now grown to what it is today.
And Garrett, I want your thoughts on the last one because Dan Snyder is my Frank Reynolds because, look, I think he's about to go off and collect his money from selling the team and go and do the things that Frank Reynolds does. Get involved in all kinds of weird schemes, break the law and not egregious ways, but ways that are definitely suspect and kind of funny.
His ethics and morals teeter. There's a balance there.
They've teetered pretty far down as of late. But Garrett, I want to know, you're a Commanders fan. What is Dan Snyder going to do after he sells this team?
Hopefully disappear from the face of the earth or something, man. Go to another country. Just get away, as far away from D.C. and Virginia, Maryland as possible. You've done enough damage. Just let somebody come in. Like from day one when he took over, you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And then ever since then, man, he's like Kanye. He's got crazier and crazier as time has gone on.
You know, is there a fan base outside of Dallas and Washington that hates their owners as much as Cowboy fans in Washington? I think Washington fans take the cake. I don't know if there's a Washington fan that likes Dan Snyder.
It's got to be Washington because with Dallas, at least there's a love-hate element to it.
At least there's Super Bowls involved.
There's Super Bowls involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Dan Snyder, he's got the deep pockets the way Frank does. I think he's the perfect one to play Frank Reynolds. And
I love it.
All right, before we close out, let's go to our picks for this week. Some of our games, some of our ones that we would ideally like to bet on.
I did homework this week.
You did homework this week?
I did homework this week. I actually know which games I like going into this week because I know you always ask me, hey, which games do you like going into this week? And I typically say, well, I haven't looked at the games yet. I'll figure it out whenever I see it. So let's actually stop it right here. And I want to talk about right now.
Let me pull you up a highlighter.
Yeah, I need a highlighter.
You got it.
Okay, cool. The game I actually really like, and I touched on the Seahawks, and I would have won some people some money last week if you listened to me on the Seahawks. I said, take the Seahawks outright. They haven't been favored in hardly any games that they've played this year. Again, Tampa Bay at 2.5. That's live right now, opening at 1 point favorites, but the live favorite is 2.5 points. I'm taking the Seahawks outright. I'm taking the money line on the Seahawks. In terms of the over-under, 44, you know what? Give it to me. I'll take the over.
Yeah, I really like that pick as well. As I look around here on this portion of the games this week, I'm really, it's just not grabbing me. Coming down, I mean, I like the Saints there. They're 2.5 point favorites, but you never know with how they looked against Baltimore last week. They could easily, chalk up, not a gimme, but just, I'm not expecting a pretty one there for the Saints. I was a little bit higher on them last week. But look, oh God, it's actually kind of an ugly one, but I'm going to go with something that's obvious, a favorite.
Okay.
I like the Giants here.
That game scared me a little bit.
Why does it scare you?
Because I think Houston is. Who are you taking, first of all?
I'm taking 6.5 point favorites. I'm taking the Giants to cover.
You think the Giants cover 6.5? That's what scared me, is that I wasn't sure. Because I do think this goes one of two ways. I think Houston hangs on till the bitter end, and it takes a final second field goal or overtime to beat them. Or I think New York just runs away with it, and it's just a barn burner, and they just destroy them, and it's an easy cover. I just don't know which one I was going to take on that one. So,
yeah.
If we want to go to the night games, and we'll talk about Dallas here in just a little bit, but let's get our games that we actually like.
I know we wanted to get into the Cowboys.
Yeah, and so we'll get into the Cowboys. I actually really wanted to talk about this game right here. I think that the Chargers-San Francisco game, San Francisco is favored by a touchdown. In the NFL, a touchdown spread is actually a fairly large number. If you're not familiar with betting, if you're just now getting into it, 7-point favorites is actually a fairly large spread. I actually like the Los Angeles Chargers to cover that. I'm not sure if they win the game outright. That's up to you entirely if you're making this bet, but I do think the Chargers cover. I'm going to take them with the +7.
Yeah, before we get to the Cowboys, the last one I want to touch on right now. I mean, first of all, there's actually two games, real quick, Rams and Cardinals. I'm actually going to take the Cardinals.
Okay, yeah.
Money line, straight up, because the Rams are kind of a dumpster fire right now. If they don't find a way to get the run game together, I don't believe that they can overcome this, occasionally good Arizona Cardinals offense. I think the Cardinals find a way to win this one. But the Monday night game.
Yep.
10.5 point favorites.
That's huge.
You were just talking about how a touchdown is a big spread. Mm-hmm. I don't think that the Commanders win this game, but I think that they definitely lose by less than 10 points.
Well, and look at this number right here. 57% of people are already putting that 10.5 in because they know that's a good number to have. Because this Washington team, they're not a bad team. I think Heineke's a better quarterback than Wentz, at least in this offense, at least for this system. I think the team believes in Heineke a little bit more.
It's a lot more fun to watch.
He's a lot more fun to watch. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm calling it right now. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the first loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. I agree with you. I don't know if they win it, but I would not be surprised if Washington upsets the Philadelphia Eagles, but I'm taking that 10.5 points for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Garrett, what do you think?
Oh, man, look, I think Philly is hot right now. I trust the quarterback situation. I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I definitely got to ride with Philly in this one. I think it would be a close game. Every NFC East game, it's one of those where you throw all the records out the window. Anything can happen. I don't give a damn who's the home team in the game. It's one of those weird scenarios. But, man, I got to ride with Philly at the moment.
All right.
And then we're going to finish it off with the Dallas-Green Bay game.
Let me just change the color.
Yeah. So I want to express how much hatred the Dallas Cowboys have for the Green Bay Packers. And I just want to say that we've never had Aaron Rodgers' number.
No.
I don't think any team really in the NFL has had his number per se. But it always seems like he plays his brightest games, brightest moments, whether that be a couple of playoff games or we know the Des Cottet game and then the Jared Cook sideline catch, heartbreakers in the final seconds of a win-or-go-home playoff game always tends to happen in favor of the Green Bay Packers. This is a homecoming for Mike McCarthy. He got a little choked up in his press conference talking about his time in Green Bay and with Aaron Rodgers and with that franchise. I think this is Green Bay's moment. I think this is Aaron Rodgers' moment to say, hey, look, I'm the back-to-back defending MVP of this league. I still have that caliber of play in me. This could start a Super Bowl run for the Green Bay Packers, and this is all because of heartbreak from the Dallas Cowboys on my side of things, is because I have no faith that the Dallas Cowboys will come close to the Green Bay Packers. Blowout. Green Bay wins this one. And if the Green Bay Packers do win this game, and I will be rooting for my Dallas Cowboys, don't get me wrong there. I just have no faith in it because I know as a Cowboy fan how these things work. There's a cheese head right behind you. If Green Bay wins this game, I will put the cheese head on for the entire episode next week.
Wow.
I'll do it. But I don't care what the money line, I'm not even looking, I'm not concerned with any of it. Green Bay will win this game in Lambeau.
Fair enough.
They've won 5 straight. Aaron Rodgers something's got to give.
I mean, I disagree with you wholeheartedly in the
Please.
outcome of this game.
Okay.
Just because of how bad the Packers have been this year.
They're awful.
You're right. There is historical connotation here. I don't know if you remember a little game called the Ice Bowl, but this Packer team has been so dysfunctional this year. Aaron Rodgers has blatantly ignored open receivers. I really don't like the vibes going on in Green Bay right now. Cowboys are 5-point favorites, which is pretty big given that it's in Lambeau. Yeah. I'm still taking the Cowboys all the way. They're going to cover, and you're going to wear the cheese head.
I will proudly wear the cheese head.
Wait, you're wearing the cheese head if the Cowboys win or lose?
I will wear the cheese head if the Green Bay Packers win. Because I'm going for I'm going for the Cowboys. I'm rooting for my team. Like, that won't change. But if the Green Bay Packers do win,
I was gonna make a bet with you, but it doesn't make sense for me to wear the cheese head if the Cowboys win. So
well, how about this?
I don't have to win. I don't have to wear a stupid cheese head.
Then let's make the bet the way it is. Then we'll go with if the Cowboys win this game, then I have to wear the cheese head. If the Green Bay Packers win the game, then you will have to wear the cheese head.
All right, and then you'll have to work the vibe here using the point of that cheese head. All right. Any final thoughts before we head out?
I think it's going to be a fun week. I really do. I think there's a lot of good games on. My prediction last week was that we're going to start seeing the cream rise a little bit. We called out our frauds. We called out our contenders, and some of our frauds won. Some of our frauds, like the Jets, had a huge game against the Buffalo Bills and came out on top.
I took a nifty turd all over the Falcons, and they found a way to win.
They found a way to win. So it's the NFL. We have no idea what's going to happen week to week, and especially this year of all years. So I still think we're going to start seeing the separation. I think the 49ers are really going to start taking charge of that division. I don't think the Seahawks are going to lose it as much as the 49ers are going to rightfully win it. I just think that they're the better team.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything he said. And if you're watching us on the Cowboys channel, let it be known that I took the Cowboys this week.
I did not. I have no faith going to Lambeau. I just don't. I've been there too many times. I'm not going to let it get me down.
All right, fair enough. All right. I'm Jacob Wilson for Tanner Carlson. This has been Shootin the Shield. Garrett Ross back there, manning the switches. Hopefully we get Emery, our college intern, back next week, because I can't crap on Garrett.
Yeah,
because
no, he's too cool of a guy.
he's too cool of a guy.
Yeah.
Emery's a little more fun to mess with.
And he's an intern, so he's like bottom of the barrel. Is he studying? What is he doing? Why is he not here?
He's
anyway?
got the flu, but I've got a feeling he's got something that requires penicillin.
Okay.
But that being said, for Tanner Carlson, I'm Jacob Wilson. That's Garrett Ross. This has been Shootin the Shield, powered by 365 Sports. Like and subscribe.